There have been many werewolves in cinema history. We got the borderline prepubescent ones from Teen Wolf. You got the skinwalker dogs from Twilight. And you got whatever the hell this is in Wolfman. Werewolves haven't had the best rep in cinema. Let's just be real about it. But there was one that goes above and beyond. I call him the alpha of all wolves. One that most people forgot because Hollywood tried to bury it as they do everything that's badass. One that made vampires, the strongest vampires ever, close their doors and fear the dark. One that makes all the werewolves in Vampire Diaries look like child's play, okay? A real werewolf, not one of these bitches. It is what we see in Underworld. The Underworld franchise gives us a very interesting depiction of vampires and werewolves, both born to a specific virus from a specific strain, okay? Now there are three kinds of werewolves in this franchise I want to touch on. They're the unevolved ones who, once they turn to a werewolf, they don't turn back to a man. They're just full-on animal at that point, mindless beasts. This is as close as a zombie virus that a werewolf has than anything else, okay? Then you have the ones that are a bit more feline, cat-like in their appearance. These are lichens. They can change back to a man at will. These are true werewolves. And then you have the ones that are lichens but have roided themselves up to the point of incomprehension, to the point where they look like the Hulk. They look like this monstrosity. These abominations are not natty. They might be the strongest werewolves, but they're pathetic because we need hybrid blood and these injections constantly to keep up. Bro, they're literally bodybuilders in a contest. Look at this. This is, as a werewolf purist, this is a disgrace. Let me talk to you about a real alpha, because from the thumbnail of this video, you probably think I'm talking about a jacked werewolf like this. Ha ha ha. I tricked you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone who's infinitely more badass than this. Because what this is to me is akin to the upgrade Predator from 2018. Sure, it might be strong as fuck. It's pathetic. I'm talking about the Natty King, known as Lucian from Underworld. A kid that was born from a mindless beast werewolf, but somehow evolved to the point where he could change back and forth, and he had his intelligence. He had his humanity left in him. He was the first of his kind. He could change at will. So the vampire lord Victor was like, we need someone like this to help protect our gates, to help keep these other werewolves in line, keep them our slaves. So he created a slave trade based on the backs of lichens. Only problem is Lucian was tapping Victor's daughter's ass. Fine ass Rana Mitra. If you've ever seen Doomsday with her, you know how bad this woman was in her prime, for God's sakes. Lucian was tapping that. Look at this. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. Alright? But it got to the point where she got pregnant. That's how much they were banging. This is unheard of, by the way. A vampire getting pregnant? Yeah, that shouldn't happen. You're supposed to be undead. And it could result in a hybrid. Now, when Victor finds this out, it would be akin to Hitler finding out that his daughter's child is like a black Jew. Can you imagine his reaction about that? What would he do? Well, chances are he would do what Victor did, and Victor had his daughter burned, destroyed, completely, in front of Lucian. And then when Lucian saw this, he went full schizo. And right before Victor's about to kill him with knives, Lucian lets out a roar and calls to every single werewolf across the goddamn freaking, in like a 2 million mile radius. He calls upon all the werewolves, all the mindless ones and the lichens that are able to change back to humans. They all come and join his army as he raises a resistance against Victor, and Victor's defeated. And ever since this, Victor basically convinced his entire vampire coven, including fine-ass Kate Beckinsale, that Lucian is the devil, and Lucian is responsible for all the evils in the world and killing their families. He blamed it all on this guy, when in reality, Lucian's just fighting the war that Victor started. And then what happens to this character? Well, Hollywood decides, okay, we need to off this dude in the first movie, in the first Underworld movie of the franchise. We need to kill one of the most badass characters because he's too badass. He's gonna take the shine away from them, and it's about them. So we need to kill Lucian. How unfortunate for me and Lucian and true werewolf fans everywhere. And now what do we replace him with? What do we have as a new werewolf threat in Lucian's place? We have these CGI abomination monstrosities who are pathetic. These peasants, quite frankly, who could never hold a candle to Lucian. Especially him, Marius, who the franchise tries to depict him as the best werewolf leader of all time beyond Lucian. You're beyond nothing. You're beyond nothing. You're a speck of dust. I don't care how powerful you are. Look at this goddamn CGI monstrosity. This is what we have now? This is the peak of werewolves in the Underworld franchise? I think not. This ain't the real alpha. He's pathetic. It's him. He might not be the strongest werewolf in the world, but he's just that guy. And it can all be seen in his ability to roar and call out to every werewolf everywhere. He can control and tame and submit the mindless beast werewolves who are like zombies at this point, who have no loyalty to anyone. There's nothing human about them left, but they respond to his call. Good luck doing that, Marius. Let me see you do that. You can't. You're not that guy. You don't have it in you. You just have steroids. That's what this guy can do. Comparing guys like Marius and all these CGI werewolves who use steroids is like comparing Brock Lesnar when he was maybe fighting Mark Hunt and he was hopped up on every roid imaginable, comparing him to Prime Stipe Miocic legacy-wise. First of all, Prime Stipe would have Brock on all fours very easily, and then you can't compare their legacies. You can't. Brock, you ain't beating DC. You ain't beating Daniel Cormier. You ain't beating anyone. You ain't beating Francis. Good luck. And another thing about Lucian is, it's not just that he's badass and he's cool and all this stuff. No, he's actually three-dimensional, unlike most werewolf characters we see nowadays. This dude has humanity. He has a motivation and a goal that makes sense. He has an origin story that's pretty damn awesome. You root for him to take out Victor and the vampires. And when he died, I was depressed. When he died, I was literally depressed as a child and a high school student when I rewatched the series. I hated the fact that Lucian died because I was like, bro, he's one of the best characters of all time. Let's look at Lucian as a werewolf versus other werewolves, alright? We got the Wolfman. I really like Benicio del Toro's Wolfman, okay? Lucian would whoop his ass. Let's just be real about the situation. But this is one of the more brutal werewolves you'll see in movie history, and I love his design. The werewolves from Twilight, listen, Jacob is a child groomer. Let's just be real about the situation. But what I will say about it is, the werewolves in Twilight and the vampires, power scaling wise, are very, very powerful. They're up there with the strongest. So it's unfortunate to say, I hate saying it myself, but they're actually super powerful. So I don't know what Lucian would do against them. Chances are he still whooped that ass. We're gonna say it anyways. Same with the Vampire Diaries werewolves. They're super fast. They're super strong. They're pretty much as strong as vampires in some ways. And the vampires are OP as fuck in the Vampire Diaries franchise. But Lucian can bite them and kill them very easily. But still, the werewolves in the Vampire Diaries have speed. They're like the Flash. And then you have werewolves like the one in Van Helsing who beat everybody. This guy in his peak beats everybody. Everybody. Lucian may not beat them in a fight, but he'd submit them all just by looking at them, just with his aura. Okay? That's what would happen. Twilight werewolves? Vampire Diaries werewolves? Good luck meeting this dude eye to eye. There's something that happens with werewolves that there's a battle of submission, and it just doesn't always end in a physical fight. Sometimes it's like a mental, spiritual thing. We've seen it with the Twilight werewolves. One of them will have to submit to the other. He would make all of them submit, but they killed him. This is one of the most disrespected characters in cinema history. He did not need to die. I urge everyone who's watching this video to rewatch one movie, Underworld: Rise of the Lycans, and then you can watch Underworld 1 after for context, and tell me this ain't one of the best werewolves, if not the best werewolf character of all time and the alpha of all werewolves. He's the GOAT. Do that. Watch that film, y'all. If you want to know who the strongest werewolf in movie history is, period, point blank, you can watch my video on that over here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on a mission to take over Hollywood. But the army must keep growing. If you want to suggest video topics to me, or talk about your favorite movies or favorite film theories in a community with like-minded individuals, join the Zafy Discord now. Link is in the description and the comment section as well. Join us. This movement is just beginning. We're taking over Hollywood, one coke line at a time.